Hey guys, welcome to what I hope is the first in many series that I'm going to be doing on my channels. But being this is my only third video, I thought I would, number one, not super prepared. You can see the area is still a work in progress. I thought I'd start by just documenting my guitars. So my guitars, part one, um, through however many I have by the time we get to the end of this. Um, I thought I'd start to try and do them in chronological order, but the first three or four videos might be kind of squishy because that was 1980 something, which is more than a few years ago. So I may have the timelines a little screwed up. Also, some guitars that I started out with are no longer in the mix. I don't know what all of you started with, but the first guitar I ever got and tried to learn anything on was a early 80s Fender something. It was not one of their good ones. It was, I vaguely remember, a plasticky looking headstock and action that you could probably fit your fingers under at the 12th fret, and it hurt to play, but I muscled through it and actually figured out a few things. Somewhere down the road, I got the bright idea that I wanted to do something creative with the finish, only to find out that I didn't know enough about doing anything with guitars and finishes and refinishing, and basically sanded a hole through the top of it. So that's firewood somewhere now. Um, the next guitar that I could really remember having was my Ovation, which is the title of this. And as part of what I want to do for the vids, instead of just showing here it is, it's got a fret. Um, I wanted to do this for myself to kind of look up some of the history of my own guitars, because I just bought guitars when I was younger. I just played them. I had no idea how to set them up. So starting with the Ovation, I actually found out a lot of things about this guitar that I didn't know, other than the fact that it has a weird bowl for its back. Um, got a few notes here, so if I'm staring off at the ground, that's why. Uh, it was actually founded by a man named Charles Kamen, and that's why in many of the instruments you'll see Kamen Music Group, especially the early ones. The first Ovation prototypes were actually introduced around 1965 or 1966, so these things predate me even. Um, from 66 to 2007, Ovation and Adamas, which I think was a more affordable line of similar guitars, were a brand of KMC Music Group. It's Cayman. Um, up until 2008, which then they were actually sold to Fender. So Fender produced these for a while. They in 2014 they moved all Ovation production overseas, so they were no longer made in Connecticut, which is where they started. Um, Shortly after closing the stateside production, Ovation once again changed hands to a company called Drum Workshop, who reopened a USA-based shop in Connecticut. And then finally in 2020, a German-based, I'm not even going to pronounce it. I don't. If, they're just going to go GEWA. Acquired the assets of Ovation and Adamas from Drum Workshop and moved production to a smaller shop in Connecticut. As recently as 2024, GEWA had a booth at NAMM with Ovation and Adamas instruments. Um, while they're mostly known, a lot of people just know them for the goofy headstocks and the composite back. I don't know if it's plastic or resin. I wasn't really able to find a whole lot of details about that. Holds up well. Um, that's what they're mainly known for. In the 70s, they did uh, do some hollow bodies, as well as introduced a solid body guitar that they called the Breadwinner. And if I can find a picture of that, I'm going to throw it up over here somewhere. Uh, I don't know, oddly shaped, I think is kind of unfair. It's unique. I think if I ever got my hands on one, I'd give it a shot. They look interesting. Um, so that's mainly all the history of the company itself. And I'm gonna pull my guitar out a little bit, had it strategically placed, because that is one thing with this back. You better have a stand, because this does not sit anywhere without sliding up. So it can take a header. Um, but this one it's an earlier one. It is the Ovation 4861, otherwise known as the Balladeer, in a sunburst finish. It was also available in natural or black. Um, I got this at a local store in downtown Oconomowoc back in the day when it still existed. Uh, the year of production, there are serial numbers on these, and there are is a sticker inside the camera, which you can kind of see, which lists the model number. Um, Details vary whether it was produced from 1987 or 1989 to 1990. That sounds about right. I thought I maybe had it a little earlier. This particular one, it was made in Korea, and they did produce some in China, as well as I don't know if the parts were produced in Korea and they assembled them in Connecticut, depending on when they were made, or if this 1980s, this would have been right around the time that they were moving production overseas. So not entirely sure. Um, as far as some of the details about the guitar, I don't have all the tools to get all of it, but I did look up what I could. Being an acoustic, it's pretty light. It weighs 5.5 pounds. It's the 25 1/4 inch scale length from the 12th fret to the bridge. Uh, it's got standard tuners. They're Ovation branded tuners, just standard closed tuners. They still work pretty good. They might be a little stiff. I might have to look into if there's anything I can do to try and lubricate these at all. And that's another reason I'm doing these videos. If anybody has any ideas for me on some of these projects, and can point me in the right direction, that would be awesome, because then I can make a video about trying to get these even more functional. But they still work. They don't slip. It holds tune very well. There's just no real pickups. It's an undersaddle piezo pickup, and it's got the standard built-in electronics, a three-way EQ, a volume button. I did lose the volume knob at some point, and I'm going to try and have to find one of those just to restore it so I can get that. But it works. Um, Unlike newer models, this does take a 9-volt battery, but unlike newer models, you don't have the handy dandy little slot on the outside that you can just open up and replace the battery. This screw on the side releases the holder for the battery inside, so you can pull it out through the sound hole and replace the battery. It's kind of a pain, and I just actually had to do that before I did this video, so I'll have a couple pictures up of what that little case looks like so you can see. The body construction, I couldn't find everything about it, but I did find out this, based on when this was produced, the model made in Korea, this is supposed to be a solid spruce top. The sides and the back are obviously the composite, the plastic-like material, plastic resin. And my particular model, I also found out when I learned something new. This is a super shallow bowl. Apparently they had ones that had more of a back to it. You might get more bass sound out of those, but they were also a lot harder to hold on your lap, from what I understand. This one sits pretty comfortably. And then the only other, the neck is mahogany. Fretboard is rosewood. It said that some may have had ebony. I don't know if you can tell on the camera. If this is rosewood, it's very dark. And if that's not ebony, then I'm thinking it's some kind of engineered wood. And as far as the fret height on these, I don't think they were ever huge, and they are much smaller now because it's been played a lot. But it's still, I don't have any fret buzz. I don't have any intonation problems. I don't have any issues with chords fretting out. So I'm not going to do anything to it because, number one, I don't know much about doing anything to acoustic guitars either. I'm just figuring it out about electrics. It does need a little bit of a spa day. I cleaned it up a little bit, but I do, when I change the strings next, I'm probably going to get some of the gunk off of the fretboard. Try and do something with the tuners. I'm just holding off on that because I'm not wild about changing the strings just yet. I don't think you can see it here. I'm going to put up a close-up picture, but the low E string, and you can see D'Addario strings on there, obviously. The low E string, the hole has started to erode, so it's pulled the string up further, and I'm getting a little worried about whether that's eventually going to go through to the point where it'll just pull a string through, and then I'd have to look at a replacement bridge. I have looked them up. I'm not crazy about trying to do anything with a glued-on bridge like this, or knowing how to do it without marring the finish, or getting it placed back right away. If anybody has any thoughts or comments on that, I'd love to be pointed towards a video of how to do this to see if it's something I even want to consider, or if this is going to be something that I will definitely outsource, because this is going to be a guitar that I never get rid of. This is one of the last ones that I ever got from my mom and dad. So this is staying with me, and eventually, hopefully, going to be passed on to one of my kids if they want it. So the only other things I know about the guitar itself, the headstock, this is pretty unique, and it's on all theirs, including the breadwinner, if you saw it on the picture. Um, I had heard from some folks that said this shell on it was actually to prevent the headstock from breaking off if it took a tumble, that this would crack first and then you'd still have a usable headstock. Um, I don't know if that's true or not, or if it's just what they chose to do to differentiate themselves from the other brands. I do like the shape of the headstock too, because compared to some other 3 and 3 headstocks, you've got relatively straight string pulls. You're not going way off at angles there, so I haven't had a problem with that. When I do change the strings, I am going to look at the nut though and make sure if it needs to get some graphite in it or some lubrication, and we'll see how that goes. So I was gonna try and mic up with a mic here, but don't pay attention to that mic. It's good for singing, and that's about it, because you have to be about this far from it for it to pick anything up. That was something I picked up on Amazon for I think less than $20, and the you get what you pay for. Yeah. So I'm going to play a few chords, which will be picked up by the lavalier mic here, and then I'm actually going to plug into my audio interface so you can hear probably better. When I was testing earlier, this does kind of break up. I think it starts to break up going through the mic. That's another thing. I do tend to finger pick more when I'm playing acoustic, or if I am doing something strummy, I use a flappier pick than I do on my electrics. It is fairly bright. The strings I think are still fairly good, but like I said, I've got things to do to it. Um, that's just a general idea of some acoustic sounds. I hope that came through okay. We'll see. I'll put up a note either way, apologizing if it didn't. So I'm gonna get my audio interface going. Gives me a chance to show where the input jack is located. It's on the back. It's not in a terrible location. I've definitely played worse. It sits comfortably. It's far enough off to the side that it's not hitting in the belly at all. And got the EQ about where I want it. So let's see if this is going to work. Okay, we're getting noise. I'm going to mute my mic real quick, just for a little bit, so it doesn't feed back in from the audio interface and this. And this is the point where I'm just going to play a couple little things, potentially ruining songs that most of you know and like. Okay, just realized I was talking before too and had a mic muted. So again, new to this, but that is my Ovation 4861 Balladeer. Um, these actually aren't bad guitars. If you get one of the later ones, quality may vary, but for a great little couch guitar, especially if you can get one of the newer ones for cheap, not bad at all. And they do take a beating. This has been through a college dorm, it's been through a teenager's bedroom, and now the glorious mess that is my studio. So that's everything we've got here. I'm going to shut this off so we don't get any extra sound introduced. Um, I plan on, like I said, walking through the rest of my guitars. I thought I'd start with the acoustic because there may have been an electric or two before this. That'll be the next video, but like I said, the timeline is a little goofy. Considering my first guitar was an acoustic, I wanted to go with the acoustic that I have left. I do have a classical guitar somewhere, but whether that's still playable remains to be seen. Um, if you liked what you saw, please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. And if anybody has any ideas for any of the problems that I mentioned on this guitar, I would love to hear it. And whether that's in our own community for any of the folks that I know online or just in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everybody.